Welcome to Conversations with the Unseen. My name is Andy.
And my name is Laura. And in December 2019, we began an amazing and completely unexpected journey, conversing with beings from the unseen world, which has totally transformed our lives.
And here we are, after hundreds and hundreds of hours of conversations, doing what our non-physical friends have been encouraging us to do, sharing their message with others who may be interested.
So let's dive in.
Hello, dear friends.
Oh, hello, Mexicans. So today we have with us to play, we have our dear friend Susan. This conversation is all about, it's not a physical journey, it's an energy journey. And Mexicans, when you first introduced me to this idea, it was a wee bit of a head fuck, quite honestly, for the for the ego. Because this human self had spent its entire life thinking this was a physical journey with somewhere to get to and to nail it down and to figure it out. And so I'm just really excited to be having this conversation with you, to be exploring it with Susan and to see where we get to. And Susan, you were saying before we began about how this was really timely in terms of a conversation. So perhaps you can share with us a little about what's been occurring in your experience.
Yeah, well, the body has been a very uncomfortable place to be residing in the last few weeks. I strained my back just before Christmas, and so I have had a constant, minute by minute, second by second reminder of being in a physical body, and so it feels really timely to be exploring this because I know at a deeper level that the energy I'm being as I experience this discomfort in the back makes such a difference to I guess to how the body comes back into balance and heals, as well as just moment by moment experience. But it has not been easy. It has not been easy. So I'm really, really curious to hear what the Mexicans have to say. So I'm sure I'll learn something. Brilliant, isn't it, how these conversations happen just when we most need them? So, thank you.
But only always. So Mexicans, it's not a physical journey, it's an energy journey. Can you share with us, what your perspective is, please? Tell us about that.
It is no surprise that from a human perspective, the journey seems like a physical one. It is a journey for who you really are, the non-physical self. A journey into form. A journey into a dimension that has physical qualities, and therefore who you really are takes on physical form, a body, which is for a season your home, or the home for your experience of the world of form. And from the human perspective, the journey is one of birth to death, from coming into form to then going out of form. And there is what occurs in between along the way. And it is possible for that journey to occur with the human self having little or no awareness of the energy journey, the contribution to the non-physical self that the journey into form makes. And for some, there is a greater awareness And having that awareness of the non-physical contribution, the energy contribution, that the experience of being in a body, in a physical realm, makes, can be helpful. It can assist, particularly when the physical journey is challenging to the human self, when the human self asks questions of life, such as, why is this happening? Why is this so painful? Why is life so uncomfortable, challenging? And the answers to these deep questions are not found in the world of form. They are not found in the human mind. The understanding of how and why life is unfolding in the way it is in that moment, the understanding is found in the non-physical. By turning away from the physical and looking towards the inner being, who you really are, beyond form. And so, in understanding the journey into form differently, in understanding it to be an energy journey, this creates a different context for the human self. It creates a context of greater peace, greater allowing life to unfold in ways that are beyond the human perspective. In considering this journey to be an energetic one, the human self is invited to surrender, trying to control what happens, to allow life to unfold and trust that the physical events all make a contribution, however uncomfortable they may be at the time for the human self. There is always something to be gained, something to be learned, and for the awareness to be expanded. And so this is a perspective that the human self is invited to consider. That what occurs for the human self in visiting the world of form, in having this experience from birth to death, that there is some other dimension to what is happening.
So we've had many conversations about this, Mexicans. And perhaps what I can share is a practical example that maybe some would find useful. You helped me see that rather than looking at the content of the experience, which is looking at the physical journey, to look at the energy of the experience. How was I creating that? And what I got to see from that is that frustration, impatience, irritation and anger, we've been best buddies since I've been a kid. And in seeing that and beginning to practice different energies, it's surprising and delighting to the human self that there are experiences that occur that the reaction in the past would have been frustration, and that's just not there with the same intensity. And so, I don't know if that makes sense, Susan. Maybe I can do a sense check with you on that.
It does, and I had a similar conversation with the Mexicans last week about the back, and the energies that came up for me when I thought about when the back had first got sore it was about push and force and effort. Now, I was doing a workout at home, so I was, lifting weights and doing all these crazy things, which this body mostly quite enjoys, and says it's good for it. So the human self is like, it's good to exercise, it's good to push yourself, it's good to challenge yourself. So the energy, and I know the specific point when I injured my back where part of me knew that push and force and effort was not what was required in that moment, but yet the human self or the ego went, yeah, come on, you can just push it. And I could feel the back getting sore. So I found that same thing really helpful, that when you point us towards what's the energy you're being, because to say that we've created it, I mean, it's like, there's no way I would have chosen to have this sore back. Like, that just doesn't make sense, because over Christmas, I was practically immobile, I couldn't even put my own socks on. So I wouldn't choose that. But to look at, okay, who was I being in that moment when this occurred? It doesn't take away the pain. It doesn't instantly make things better for the physical experience, but somehow it just creates a little bit more ease. That's been my experience, is to go, okay, if I'd chosen a different energy in that moment, I might have had a different experience. And even more helpful is in the moment that I'm thinking that, to go, and what energy do I choose now about it? Because I can't go back and change. I wish I could. The human self would love to go back and not do those extra weights. But in this moment, I can choose an energy. So I can, like you're saying, Laura, the frustration, the impatience, the anger, that's all been coming up for me. Like, when is this back going to get better? Why did I do that to myself? All of that stuff's come up. But I know that in this moment, if, as the Mexicans are saying, I can connect with, okay, what's the energy? I can choose an energy that just makes it easier to be with in that moment.
And as you do so, you are creating a new perspective for the human self. And the perspective is one more aligned with who you really are, more aligned with the inner being. And that perspective is one that exists beyond the programs that the human mind carries, and therefore the human perspective is always the perspective from those programs, and they create an experience of the world of form that is distorted. It is a false reality in many ways as compared to the non-physical realm. The world of form is an opportunity for who you are beyond form to come and experience contrast. And the contrast makes a contribution for you to experience who you really are in an upside down reality where fear and pain and suffering are the experience of many. And yet, beyond that experience, you are this infinite and eternal being. And the experience of being human will come to an end, and you will return your awareness to that non-physical perspective. And the journey will be whatever the journey was for the human self. There will be an expansion of awareness. There will be becoming something more because of that experience. And for many, that experience can be extremely challenging. And in the moment of experiencing that challenge, it is difficult for the human self to understand the contribution that is being made. But there is always a contribution. There is always some benefit, some additional awareness or wisdom that can be gained.
Mexicans, there's so much in what you just said, but I really want to go back to something that Susan said that really felt like it had neon lights around it for me. When you were talking about the back, Susan, you said, well, I wouldn't choose that. And that's how it seems when we look at it from the physical perspective. We go, well, I wouldn't choose that. But actually what I've begun to really see is when I look at it from the energetic perspective, I can totally see that I've chosen it.
Yeah.
Just might be that I haven't been conscious of what I've been choosing. And I don't know if it's true for you, but it's like I said, it's like, you know, frustration and patience and all of these have been like, we've been best buddies since I was a kid. And so actually the world of form is very good at mirroring these energies that I have been masterful at practicing, unbeknownst to myself that I was practicing them. And that for me starts to have a completely different slant in choosing. And so Mexicans, you've talked about the more we withdraw our focus. So I've been aware of what I'm choosing. I'm beginning to choose something else. And as if by magic, the world of form is beginning to change.
That jumped out at me when I was listening to the Mexicans saying about the contribution, and I thought, yeah, but I did choose it at a different level than the human self could see, and that I think is really, really difficult to get your head around. So the point is to try and not get your head around it, but just to observe it happening. This is what the Mexicans talk about, expanding the awareness. Even I think just being open to the possibility that this might be how things work, it can massively change things. You know, just that thing of, I wouldn't choose to have a sore back. But hang on a minute. If that's a contribution to my experience, okay, what if I did choose it, right? What is there here for me to discover? And even if I can't see it in the moment, and even if I never see it at the human self level, at some way just even opening up to that possibility is expanding awareness. And I think Mexicans, that's what you said, is about, you know, those questions that the human self asks. Why is this happening? Why is it so painful? Why is it happening to me? Those questions in themselves, even if we never get an answer, are expanding our awareness beyond just this physical experience, which, yeah, is pretty amazing.
And so, Mexicans, I would love if you could share more about the idea of choosing, because I have had many, what some may describe as arguments with you, telling you vociferously, I didn't choose this. I didn't choose this. And I can see now that that's completely a perspective from the human perspective. I'm sure it's not an unfamiliar perspective for anybody who's got something unwanted in their world, but it's not seeing it from a space of like then the human self then judging itself for what it's chosen. It's like, it feels to me you've helped me see there's such an innocence in it all. And I wondered if you could speak about that, please.
The human perspective is frequently one of being a victim. When asking questions such as, why is this happening to me? It has an energy of powerlessness to it. And yet, when connecting with the energy, what life is doing is mirroring back to the human self the energy that one is aligning with. So this is an opportunity for the human self to learn that whilst it is unable to control the uncontrollable, to control every event that occurs in the world of form, and particularly in its own experience of the world of form, it is impossible for the human self to be in control. It can create a different experience of the world of form by looking to the energy and creating a different experience by managing one's energy in a different way. So taking responsibility for how life is unfolding, not trying to control it, but taking responsibility for the energy. The energy is what is generating the experience of the world of form. The world of form is a giant mirror, and the body is a very intense mirror for the energy that the human self is being. The stories that the human self is believing and the energies which you have mentioned are reflected back in the human experience. So in managing those energies and consciously aligning with different energies that are more aligned with what the human self would like to experience, these can replace those energies that create an uncomfortable experience for the human self. So, for example, energies of love and peace and acceptance and non-judgment, energies that are more aligned with the non-physical self, who you really are. And as the human self becomes more energetically aligned with these consciously chosen energies, the world of form, including the body, realign. They are reflecting back a different energy, and the experience of being in the body and the world of form change as a result.
You know what it brings to mind for me? I would always try and do instant chat with any kind of company, then have a conversation and go through their security. But there was a transaction on the credit card last week and I was like, I don't recognise that. Oh man, it's a conversation. So flowed love to the conversation. It was the worst connection and I couldn't hear what the person was just going in and out all the time. And what I really noticed was I was patient. I was playful. I told the guy he sounded like he was talking to me from inside a toilet. I thanked him for his patience at the end. And I was quite playful telling him I was flowing love to the connection. And at the point where I flowed love to the connection, it completely shifted. And then it went back. And that for me was a brilliant example of something coming into the physical world where actually the default energy would have been frustration and impatience and probably hanging up. And it felt so much nicer than to intentionally choose. Now, the reason I could intentionally choose something else was because I've been practicing different energies. I feel like if frustration was just the energy I would have been practicing, it would have seemed to the human self like there was no choice. And so I love when you're talking about the practice Mexicans and how the world of form brings us these experiences to match the energies that we're being. Because I remember being really pissed off thinking, what is Great Spirit bringing me this shit? And actually Mexicans, it was so helpful when you helped me to see that Great Spirit is loving and actually that these experiences that the human self would call uncomfortable are the ones that the human self is creating for itself by forgetting who it really is.
And therefore, to look in the direction of who you really are provides a way for the human self to transform the experience of being in the physical realm.
I don't know about you, Susan, but when you look in the direction of the physical, for me, it's so complicated that I'm like, I haven't got a clue. And for me, what I'm really seeing is the more I look in the direction of the energy, it's really quite simple. There's a simplicity.
I found myself trying to be too literal. So, okay, what is the physical experience? Okay, what could that mean in the energetic world? So looking to the physical first. And that's where I get stuck, and I know I get stuck because I go into my head about it, and it's the human self trying to understand something the human self doesn't really understand. So I think something that I've heard the Mexicans say that's really helpful is just that thing about expanding awareness, just even asking the question, what is the energy I'm being here? What other energies are available? Sometimes I'll get a real strong sense of an answer to that question. Often not in a way that I could articulate in words, but I'll have a feeling. And sometimes not, or maybe it happens later. But I think the simplicity for me is, I can almost think about it as that physical thing of, okay, I'm looking over in this direction, right? Okay, I'm going to turn over here and I'm just going to ask a question and see what presents itself. There's a simplicity in that, and then allowing and seeing what comes up. And I say that, and there's part of me going, what? Like what does that bring you? Because there's the bit that wants the quick fix, you mean if I do X, Y, and Z, then I'll get the answer, or I'll know, or I'll discover the thing I need to discover. And for me, that has been still is a really big part of the practice, is the allowing it to emerge, and sometimes it's not just one experience. You have to have a number of similar experiences to go, oh, right, I get it now, this thing keeps coming up. So for me, this physical experience of having a sore back is not the first time this body, gets injured, and has been in the past. And so it's like, okay, here we are again. And this time it really does feel like it's been a sledgehammer, because I've really been so immobile. And it's like, okay, right, really time to just slow down and keep looking in that other direction. Even though the human self can come up with all sorts of explanations as to why the back is sore and what I did and what I need to do, and lots of other people have given me advice on how I should deal with this. I've tried all of that in the past, and yet here I am again. So
I'm sorry for laughing. I'm laughing because what it's connecting for me is, it's like almost like at the 10 trillionth example of something happening, it's like, and I guess it's like, for me, it's like when I've seen how much I've played with the energy of frustration, I'm like, oh my God, it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And it's been, I guess it's like, dear Laura, here's another little message. Here's another invitation. Not this time. Not this time. And so, Mexicans, what's your perspective on what we're saying?
The body being the most intense mirror for the experience is almost acting as a screen, a monitor for life in general, life in form generally. And as you examine the energetic qualities that are being communicated to the human self through the body, this is acting as an indication of this energy being present in every area of one's life, one's physical life. And so it is an invitation to look beyond the body, to ask to be shown where else is this energy affecting my experience of the physical realm. So if there is frustration or if there is forcing and trying to control presenting itself in some physical way in the body. It is an invitation to look at every aspect, everything that the human self engages with, and to be more aware of this energy and where it may be showing up. And therefore the invitation is to consciously align with a different energy, to replace that energy that is a program for the human self, to see that it is a program, that the human self does not need to align with that energy, whatever it might be, that is creating the experience as it is, perhaps in an uncomfortable way. There is a choice for the human self. And the choice is to look in a different direction and to consciously align with energies that will create a more comfortable and even joyful experience of the world of form.
Something that's really come up for me with this experience with the back, just listening to what you're saying, Mexicans, and kind of what I've started to look at is not just the experience that to the human self caused this sore back, it's how I'm being with it. So it's like, oh, okay, so what am I experiencing over these days and weeks with this discomfort? And the thing that's really come up for me is resistance. So when the body physically resists and kind of sort of guards against the pain that's going on, it actually makes it worse. And the more that I've kind of been allowing and kind of trying to relax into it and just accepting that, okay, this is quite intense right now, it seems to be shifting something. So physically that feels quite good. But the other side, the energetic side to it is, where am I resisting in my life? What else am I resisting? And that's really bringing up some stuff, because the human self would go, I don't resist. I'm quite an open person and I allow things to happen. Okay, that's really not the reality. You know me well enough to know. Yeah. We've never encountered that. But it's that thing of, as I've started to frame it in my mind to help the human self understand it, is resistance is just not allowing what is. It's trying to change what is happening in this moment. And my goodness, do I do that pretty much everywhere in my life. So that's been really helpful to kind of go beyond the physical sensation and go, what is it that's going on here and what is that pointing me towards? And I'm still very much on that journey, but that was really, really helpful for me to see. And so in that way, and with that perspective, I can be quite grateful for the experience. And even, I think, Mexicans, you just said about being joyful, there have been moments where I've gone, wow, isn't it amazing to feel this intensity of sensation? Let's not label it as pain, but this sensation, wow, isn't that amazing? And I have actually felt momentarily quite joyful, but certainly grateful for, like, if I didn't have a body and if I hadn't had this injury, I wouldn't have had this physical feeling.
You know, that's really beautiful. And what's occurring to me is this feels to me like a conversation that's opening up other conversations. And I'm wondering, it's like there's perhaps another conversation around managing one's energy and also resistance. And that could be the almost as an extension of this conversation and diving into like the energy journey a little more. Yeah.
Because for me, resistance, I can also resist feeling really, really good. It's not just resisting the feeling bad. So yeah, let's have a conversation about that, because where in my life am I not allowing, all the amazing feelings as well? So yeah.
You, me, and the rest of humanity.
Exactly.
Mexicans, have you got any final words that you would share with us and anyone who may be listening?
We would offer a mantra to begin to shift energies that are creating an uncomfortable experience for the human self. And the mantra would be to allow all things. And from an energy of allowing, there can be a conscious creation of one's experience within the energy rather than trying to control what is happening in the physical. So to engage with the energy of allowing what is happening and to create from there.
There's a whole other topic as well.
Never ending.
Thank you, Susan, for playing.
Thank you.
Mexicans, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us with such generosity. I just love and adore you. I have so much gratitude, and it's wonderful to be sharing your perspective with anyone else who may be interested.
We flow love to you both and to those who may be listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Until next time.
You've been listening to Conversations with the Unseen.
If you'd like to know when there's a new conversation available, then remember to subscribe and also to share it with others.
If you'd like to have a written transcript of each conversation, then you'll find this on the website conversationswiththeunseen.com.
And if you have a question you'd like us to ask on your behalf, or if you would like to join the mailing list, then you can also do that on the website conversationswiththeunseen.com.
Until next time.